So I said there were 7 design concepts, and we've looked at the first 3, and now let's look at the last 4. And these 4 I've actually grouped together in what I call the big 4, and they are contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. Okay, let's begin with contrast. Now, I think contrast is actually the most important of the 4, and you can achieve contrast in many different ways. For example, black and white, color, size, and shape. But contrast is really about difference and showing difference. And we don't want to just show a little difference, we often want to show a big difference. Okay, let's look at these first set of slides. And the first one here, the blue one, the blue background, you'll notice that the text really doesn't stand out. The text is white, but the background is kind of white, so there's just weak contrast, right? If you look at the next one, you'll see that the text is white and also larger, and the background is very different than white. It's almost black. It's a very, very dark gradient. So that's one. Color was used to achieve contrast, but also size. You'll notice that we wanted to draw attention using contrast, let's say to the word big, so it's much bigger, and also it's bled off the page a little bit, which is sort of interesting, and it's another way to draw attention via contrast. Okay, this example is a little bit different, because if you look at this first slide, you actually can understand the graphic and you can see it, but it takes more work to see it because the background template has a lot of elements that aren't necessary. Again, these are noisy, right? But we could also say this has weak contrast because the background has too much salience. And as you can see, it's hard to see the word rate, for example, in the title, and there's just a lot of noise. It makes it harder to see the text. In the different treatment of the same data, it's just very, very easy. And even though this background does have some patterns on them, they're very, very subtle. So the contrast between the foreground and the background is really good. And of course the text is white, the background is almost black, and it's very, very easy to see. Also, we've used color as a contrast technique because we want people to notice South Korea. That's where we want you to look, and that's where your eye is going to go because it's red and the other bars are gray. So the whole idea behind contrast is that it's a great concept and a great technique that you can use to achieve very powerful and very clear images. It doesn't matter how many you use. You don't have to use many different techniques like big and small, different shapes and so on. But if you use 1 or 2, it can be very powerful and effective.